A very good evening, everyone, to today's Gyanavardhani webinar series. Today, we have with us Advocate Ranganathan, who has 20 plus year of industry experience and at present independently practicing as techno-legal advocate with specialization in cyber laws and cyber forensics at Roots Cyber Law Firm. He has even won India's first cyber civil case, Madras High Court, S. Uma Shankar versus ICICI Bank, and was felicitated by Cyber Society of India, Chennai, on this occasion. He has won first cyber civil case in Karnataka before adjudicator of Srikanth Subramanyam versus Indus Bank. Has been speaker in many seminars, webinars, and panel discussions with respect to cyber law, cyber security, data privacy, data protection, and IT Act compliance, and regularly conducts sessions on it at various law colleges. Even accompanying him is Chinmaya, who also works at Roots Cyber Law Firm and handles cyber and corporate legal at Roots Cyber Law. We welcome you today to the session and looking for an insightful session today. Over to you, Advocate Ranganathan and Chinmaya.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful welcome for you. You all, happy to see everyone today in this meeting. Although this is my first meeting for FTPPI, I am really happy and excited to share our experience on Spain. Okay, this is a case which we won against Indus Bank. It was represented, but the verdict was delivered by the adjudicating officer of Bangalore. This is a cyber case where the complainant had lost some amount from his credit card, and subsequently we were able to prove the negligence and what were the lapses, what were the reasonable security practices that the bank had failed in the due course of handling this case from their end. So taking you to the facts of this case, there is this gentleman named as Srikanth Subramanyam, who was holding a savings bank account at the Indus Bank. He had also a credit card issued in his name. And he was a customer of Indus Bank for having a history of past 10 years. So in that credit card and the savings credit card, he had a limit of ₹10 lakhs in his credit card limit. So subsequently, what happened one fine day in 2020, this gentleman had applied for a new credit card and he has received this new credit card on his mobile. After that, what has happened is on 17th October 2020, there were some unauthorized transactions that has happened from his credit card, as well as the savings bank account from which was also linked to various UPI platforms such as Paytm and Google Pay. So there was cyber fraud that has happened from Paytm account. There is cyber fraud which has happened from the Google Pay account. Money has been debited, which was nearly amounting to 1,79,400, or we can take it, let's say it as a 2 lakhs approximately. That was debited. That is too unauthorized, neither any message alert and without the knowledge of the complainant. The second scenario was when he has gained a wrongful loss from his credit card, where almost 9,50,000 was debited was used from his credit card. By using his credit card, some 9,50,000 were used. Okay. So these transactions were unauthorized transaction happened on 16, 17, 21, 22 with like 5-6 days continuously till 2020, in the year of 2020. So what has happened is there were different transactions that has taken place while he was in India. The card was held with him. And few transactions have happened in Kabul. Right, sir?
Yeah,
Ranganath
Chinmay,
sir, you may add to it.
yeah, sure. Thank you for that
Yeah.
facts you said. Yeah, just to add to what Chinmay just said, this gentleman had this credit card of IndusInd Bank since 2010 or so. So he was a 10-year-old customer. He never did any international transactions. And in the month of September, his card was supposed to lapse. So they sent a new card in October. And on October 31st, he logged into his account. He was surprised to see there were transactions, multiple transactions happened. So first transaction which happens is on October 16. October 16, somebody tries to use a card for 10 lakh 20,000 rupees. Since the card limit is only 10 lakh, it won't get through, it will get reversed. At this point in time, there is no SMS which is being sent. And again, on October 20th, again $5,000, $5,000, twice it will they'll try to do transaction. Again, it will be reversed. For what reason, we don't know. Again, third time also, they try to do the transaction of $10,000. Again, it will get reversed. And finally, on 26th October, it will get through. Somebody would have booked some air tickets, and that is the IP address is showing in Kabul. That is called Idealistic Logistic Kabul. Now, this is the case. At this point in time, on 31st October, when he logs into his account to pay the bills and to see what was pay the credit card bill and other things and all, he'll be shocked, and then he'll raise an alarm to IndusInd Bank. See, this is what has happened from October 16th to October 31st, sorry, 26th. There were multiple transactions and I didn't receive any SMS, OTP and other things and all. Bank will do their due diligence, they'll do the investigation and they'll come back and say these were all legitimate transactions which was done by you, and we have sent the OTPs to your email as well as mobile. This was their say. But he didn't receive any SMS on the phone, but he had received the OTPs in email. But he never saw that email where it came, and the transaction happened at the midnight. If you look at the transaction, it was at 1 a.m., 1:26, 1:24, 1:28, like that. So that is clearly, it states the transaction which was happened was out of India hours. And also it was on the face of the record, anybody can see it was from Kabul. And then there was no other option left. We filed a FIR in South Cyber Station. And as well as we filed a damages against IndusInd before the adjudicator. Now, the question raised before the adjudicator was, these transactions were legitimate from the bank side, as they came up with the evidences showing that they have sent the SMS, they have sent the email, OTP, and you have only done. But what the argument, what they brought was predominantly on these legitimate transactions. And what they didn't give was the IP address, the log details. These things were not available. And we also said in our argument, you can send the phone to forensics. If any SMSs are received, that will be available. But there was no SMS sent, nor the logs they gave. Now, what was the negligence on the bank, where they failed under Section 43A of reasonable security practice, was when the transaction 3 times they reversed. That was the time they should have alarmed. They should have blocked the card. They didn't do. First thing is they didn't call the client, whether it is a legitimate transaction, are you trying to use the card over and above your limit. And the second thing was, automatically the card should have been blocked. This simple thing, because once it is fine, 3 times a transaction happens and it gets reversed, and the 4th time the transaction goes through, and that too not from India. It's from the IP address itself shows outside India, that too from a place from Afghanistan. So this was the reasonable security practice where they failed, which we sticked on to. And just to take a step back on the fact, we filed the case against, one is IndusInd Bank and then Google Pay and Paytm. Now, credit card is straightforward, which happened, but there was a debit card also. It was a coincidence. In the debit card, there was 1,79,400 rupees, which was transacted. And those transactions, it was a legitimate transaction because not he himself, but his son was using the phone at that point in time. And some transactions were legitimate and some were, they didn't share the UPI credentials and other things and all. So we made these people party and we said Google Pay as well as Paytm is also liable. But we didn't have any claim against them, but we had direct claim against Indus Bank. And then we sent a notice, there was no response. While all these things were taking place, the Indus Bank was regularly sending the bills to pay. And this gentleman was paying 50,000, around 50,000, 45
As
or
an
something.
interest.
As interest
on
every
the-
month.
Every month.
He paid at least, I think for
So by
8
the time he has paid already 7 lakhs.
he had already paid a huge amount. And then adjudicator was kind enough to give a
Yeah, we
stay
were
order.
able to take a restraint order from that to make stop payment for not paying the interest until the case was heard. So we were successfully passed through that, and he was little relief was shot to him at the present as a present relief.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. So, and what we were able to prove in this case was on the reasonable. If I take a step back to Umashankar case, just to recall and recap what happened there. In that case, there was a phishing link which was sent, and the URL which came was almost similar. Not almost similar. It's a bank URL itself. What we could see, customer care at the rate of ICICIbank.com, which forced the customer to click on that link and give his credentials, and from there on it went on to lose the money of 6,46,000, where there was a huge money. And the negligence in that case, what we proved was the bank had all the facilities, all the security systems. In spite of that, they didn't alert. Since the bank did a call on the next day to the customer and asked if this transaction is executed by you, where Umashankar said it was not done by me, and their own case went, and finally now it is settled in Madras High Court. Whereas in this case, there was no link or anything as such. Here, where the reasonable security practice failed, where we predominantly brought to the notice of the adjudicator was, where the bank had that security system here also, and as well as they could have, when the credit limit itself is crossing, that was the time, that was the time where they had to alert, either by blocking the card or by calling the customer or anything. And interestingly, 3 times the transaction had, and then it got, and 4th time it goes through. Until then, no clue at all. After that also, until the customer gets into the net banking and he looks at his statement and comes back and intimate the bank, until then there was no message or intimation whatsoever. So that was predominantly argued, and the bank failed to prove. Similar to Umashankar case, here also they came up with the terms and condition. The tons and tons of pages where they had in website while opening the account, while giving the credit card. This is what you are saying, and this is what you are liable, etc., etc. But ultimately, all those things could not help. Since for the basic things, they were not able to give the logs, and they were not able to prove SMS was sent, nor they were able to prove this transaction happened legitimately, or they had any safeguard or any other things to bring across the table. And there were many cases. There was one more earlier case. I think Navi sir know that he was handling initially Rajendra Prasad Yadav versus ICICI Bank. Unfortunately, that case went in favor of bank. Now it is in. It has gone to appeal. To see that, but in this particular case, the adjudicator was kind enough to acknowledge this time and appreciate the fact where the bank failed under section 43A, heavily not having their security practices. The same thing was mentioned in the judgment also. Let me just go through that. And
here in this case, actually the bank had a strong argument. Where they had failed is they were not unable to present the IP addresses from where the SMS could have come. Second thing was they could not submit the IP logs, and they could not give the log details from the Airtel service provider. That was the main, I think there was a 3 loopholes which they failed to produce, which maybe made us win this case. One more thing, what the adjudicating overlooked, that where we pointed out that when there is an UPI transaction, there is a limit set by the NPCI. It was a circular that was circulated in somewhere around 2017, where it said that in a per day there will be not more than 12 transactions that will go through. Here, what has happened is there were 24 transactions through Paytm. There were 24 transactions through Paytm. Still, bank overlooked it. It allowed every time those transactions. So it means 12 was a limit. Above and top of that, 12 more transactions had happened. But as because everybody knows over here that when it is unless and until we enter a password or a passkey, we cannot do any UPI transactions. So there where we maybe the adjudicating officer did not take into consideration. But NPCI on their part, I think they have done fair this thing. Now they have limited it. They have come up with a few new guidelines, which maybe Navi sir will be knowing, and which maybe it will be helpful for us to go forward, and we should know how to present our case more beautifully and protecting the interest of the customers or the complainants who make some wrongful losses.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just take you through the judgment. What was the question the adjudicator listed was 3 questions which was listed, where the complainant was able to prove beyond reasonable doubt as to negligence of the first respondent, that is the Indus Bank, maintaining the savings bank account and credit card account of the complainant. Point number 2 was whether the respondent bank is responsible for the wrongful loss caused to the complainant. And point number 3 was whether the respondent number 4 and 5, that is Google Pay and Paytm, are liable for the aforesaid loss caused to the complainant. So for these 3 questions, the adjudicator answered for point number 1 and 2. They also said the Google Pay and Paytm, the client was also negligent, and it was a legitimate transaction. That's what it says. And going forward, they say this is what it's in the judgment. I'll share the judgment. I've already shared with a couple of people. I'll share to WPPA group. Now, I just read out what the judgment says. However, at the same time, the respondent bank cannot totally absolve itself of the responsibility. As far as at least the credit card transactions are concerned, the respondent bank should have alerted the complainant when multiple transactions started taking place, and that too, when the transactions are in foreign currency, and after carrying out multiple reversal of funds back to credit card due to failed transactions, as stated by the complainant, though the respondent bank has mentioned various measures for safe electronic banking in para 4 of their customer protection policy, in the case on hand, they failed to detect the unusual transactions. Their fraud detection and prevention mechanism also did not work when multiple transactions took place, and also when the transaction was attempted above the credit limit. The respondent bank neither raised the alarm nor blocked the card nor called the complainant. Hence, the respondent bank is also equally liable for the loss occurred to the complainant. So predominantly what was upheld was the negligence part and the failure of the security measures. Generally, in these cases, what has been observed, and others also can give their input, bank will come up with their security policies as well as the terms and conditions which has been executed while opening a bank account or while giving a credit card or debit card or opening a savings account. So with this judgment, the adjudicator has given the thought process that is not sufficient in today's technology, where the bank has the upper hand in order to safeguard the money, and they are the first place in order to, if there is any unusual transaction. Suppose, for example, somebody is not using at any point in time, they didn't use more than 10,000 or 20,000 or maximum 50,000. All of a sudden, if there is a transaction of 2 lakh, then the security system should be able to identify that as unusual transactions. And second point is, this is happening in a foreign currency. The transactions are happening in US dollars, where a customer never used for US dollars other than Indian rupees. He never used his card for US dollars or any other currency in the world. So that is the second point. And the third point is, when they reversed, that was also a point where they were able to alert the client so that this damage wouldn't have been happened or occurred. So with this, happy to say that this was the first case ever from the adjudicator of Karnataka in favor of a client and holding the bank responsible. And the important point is, before we filed this case, we went to Navi sir and we took his inputs. He gave us what to include, what not to include, and how to submit it. So thank you so much, Navi sir. Directly,
Thank you,
you are
sir.
important, indirectly, and the credit goes to you. And as you, since you suggested, we did Google Pay and Paytm also a party. And with that, we learned about NPCI transactions, which Chinmay shared earlier. There is a maximum number of transactions, and if that happens over and above, even these third-party players are also equally responsible, like Google Pay, Paytm, or any other party. I think in a day, 12 transactions or something limit is there, and also the amount. So in that way, we were able to get this done. So let me stop here and take any questions before concluding or moving forward.
Yeah, Ranganath, Ramana Reddy actually took this adjudication.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Just one question I have. Where, like, how did the card number go? Was it linked to this Paytm or Google Pay? That's how the issue started, or if they got this card numbers from elsewhere? Did that surface?
Sorry, you were not audible. Is your question Google Pay and Paytm is linked to the card?
Correct. That was the question. What was that
No.
one of the causes? Yeah.
No. It was not linked to the.
On connected.
It was for the savings account, the debit card.
Okay. Okay. The savings account card was. Okay.
Yeah, the UPI was, but unfortunately, these two things happened at the same time. That was the confusion, whether that Google Pay was also hacked and Paytm was also hacked, along with the credit card. We were also confused before filing. And then when we analyzed in detail, that's when we got to know the card was used by his son, and certain things happened. For that reason, we filed FIR. And also the court also saw that this was a legitimate transactions which happened by the UPI. Hence, they didn't give any.
So that part was ignored basically by the adjudicating officer, because UPI transactions basically happens with the savings bank account. It never goes through your credit card account. So it is and it is as we said, we have to get an input of your password, passkey, unless and until you do that, because there is no email services for the same. So it is only a payment gateway. That's all. Where there were many cases where it was held that UPI, the intermediaries are not liable. Right, sir?
Yeah.
So
You're right.
based on that, the adjudicating officer totally ignored, or that 1,79,000 what was transferred through UPI transactions that took place. So that relief was not given to us. Other than that, whatever he has lost from his credit card, that the order says that they have to reverse back the credit card losses, whatever the wrongful losses has happened through the credit card.
And
So,
when was the last time he had genuinely used his credit card, or rather basically, because
Sorry?
when was the last time he genuinely used the credit card?
no, credit card he was using every month for his groceries and a few other payment of bills and other things and all.
Yes.
But what was the catch was such a huge amount he never used, and he never used for a foreign currency. Yeah.
And this transactions especially happened when he was in India, and it was a midnight transactions, which is very, very unusual on the part of the complainant, where he never does such type of transactions in his lifetime. So through whatever the transaction he has done in his lifetime, totally with the association with the Indus Bank, that we were able to show, and that's where it was considered, I believe.
Okay.
I have one question here.
Yes,
Before
sir.
that, I am very happy our adjudicating officers have started giving a speaking order. That's a very good sign, because we have been
Absolutely.
struggling day in and out, and Ranganath
Yes.
must be lucky not to walk the corridor, or this may be too old already. My problem is the consumer is being harassed now because he doesn't have the facility to have evidences accrued. So also our lawyers, they'll be struggling day in and out in catching the evidences. Is it not possible in all these cases? I hope burden of proof lies on the complainant, man who
Yes.
complains, isn't it? Is it not wise to make a law where it is shifted to the banks? Because in a lot of customs works, as well as in GST and other areas, where there is no wherewithal for the consumer to give proper evidences, it has been shifted to department or it is shifted to smugglers. For example, if somebody brings a foreign cigarette, it is not possible for us to prove that it is foreign. So we say onus lie on him. Similarly, in these cases, there is need of addressing this because it is too complicated for a common account holder to get the evidences. It is better we recommend for a law where the onus of proving that there is no fraud happened is on the bank. Bank has to show that if that shift is happening, then it is easier for us to communicate and we'll say this is money we have lost. So it's for the banks to prove that
Sir,
it is
absolutely.
rightfully gone. So there is need of that legal amendment that should be created. Hope when new law comes, we will make a recommendation on this. That's what I pray. That's the Ranganath's
absolutely.
output. It
No,
will
no,
be.
let Balu speak first and then I will speak.
Yeah.
Are you, is it audible, sir, my voice?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
As said by Mr. Golan Raman, I repeatedly am saying, you compare with the traditional crime. If any crime looted from the bank, cash, by showing guns or anything, the bank people is giving the complaint. Here, the resource, everything is available with only bank. Bank only knows that if account has been swindled from my account. So let them give a complaint. If they give a complaint, they will have all the details and everything. I am a victim, no doubt. But everything is available with the bank only. The bank has to initiate a complaint.
Correct, sir.
No,
Very correct, sir.
no,
Whether
let me add. Okay. See, Mr. Kodanram, the current procedure for this adjudication is that it is an inquiry. Okay. While the adjudicator has got the powers of a civil court, he is not under an obligation to have the procedures as per your civil procedure code. So as an inquiry officer, it is his responsibility to seek evidence, and if necessary, he can ask the local police to actually do an investigation and provide the evidence. The complainant is not, as per the current law, expected to provide all the evidence. But it may not practically happen because people don't know, and the counterparty normally will expect the complainant to bring all the evidence. We can point it out that the 2003 notification of adjudication process clearly says that this is an inquiry process. This is not a process like your civil proceedings where evidence is the responsibility of the petitioner. It is not. Secondly, even in the RBI's limited liability circular, it is made very clear that onus of proof lies with the bank. So both the RBI has agreed that in any case of payment frauds, both in internet banking as well as card frauds, the onus of proof of any evidence lies with the bank. The customer will only provide like an FIR. He will file the complaint with whatever information he has got. You say his information is limited. He visits the bank website and he can take a screenshot. Beyond that, he doesn't know anything about the data which is in the bank. So it is not expected. But practically speaking, we do have this problem that when you go to the any forum, including the adjudicator, sometimes the adjudicator himself is not fully aware of how much of responsibility the complainant is expected to take. I am happy to see that this Ramana Reddy has taken this case and concluded it. in the previous occasion, we had a very tough time with the adjudicator not taking proper kind of a decision. So we should be happy that at least they are also perhaps improving in a way.
Sir, that's what I'm telling. Even in civil proceedings, in other departmental inquiries, we have this onus fixed by law. Why should give this as a kind of arbitrary thing or something which is possible to say change by the arbitrator or the adjudicator? It should not be the prerogative of the adjudicator to decide who should do the proof. The law itself should be made in such a way it protects the victim who doesn't have the evidence. So thereby protection of law by law both for civil as well as criminal cases. And we should use this as a very important factor. Otherwise, it is very, very difficult for a common man to prove his case in a court of law. Here he doesn't have any evidence. So the only remedy is by law itself, we should make the other fellow who is an intermediary, or he may be a fraudster doing himself. We don't know. He may be a perpetrator of crime. He should be made responsible. The bank should be made responsible.
No,
Then only the law will get some
under
finality.
under the Evidence Act, if I ask the intermediary to present the evidence, which I reasonably say it is with him, and if he fails to cooperate, I can charge that intermediary as an accomplice. Right. Yes. These are the things which lawyers should stress when it comes to the actual thing.
But there is some problem in the voice.
Yeah, one of the participants, I don't know whose this thing is there. Okay. So the procedure as far as adjudication is concerned is reasonably consumer friendly. Only thing is it has to be implemented. Yeah, Ranganath, if you want to add anything.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I want to just one query.
Yeah, let me.
When messages were sent through email, how it was not proved by the bank that messages were also sent on mobile? I'm not convinced to understand how it happened.
Okay.
When messages reached email, SMS didn't reach mobile phone.
No, correct. That's we only told. It's not bank came and told they gave through email. We told we have received the messages in email, but that is not my primary source of authentication. I don't monitor the email. But if you see the bank policies and other things and all, they only say they send the SMS as well as the email. And during the midnight at 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. when I'm sleeping, the transactions are happening, and the two for a beyond my limit. So these were the reasonable security practices where they failed. We predominantly brought before the adjudicator, and we argued in that sense.
No, argument is perfect, but if messages are sent on email, I am failed to understand what could be the technical error where messages are not sent on mobile.
SMS goes through a different channel, mails go through a different channel. Most probably SMS is also sent through a partner or somebody like that, not by the bank itself. There will be some associate who will be sending it. So it goes through two different channels. So it is possible that the system was not functioning properly, or somebody cut off that particular SMS server. SMS server is different. The email server is different. So it can happen. But that
is sure.
So one interruption over here, sorry to interrupt. Sometimes what happens when we do one transactions, there are two ways where we have opted for two ways of transactions, right? Where we get the OTP in the email or mobile. As a general practice, we get both. In some cases, when I also do a transaction, I can prefer choosing that where I will get an email. If I'm not having the mobile at right point of time, I can choose it to send it to my email. In this case, the bank said that it has gone to both the emails and as well as mobile. The SMS has been received, but this gentleman has not received any kind of SMSs. And that's where the bank also failed to provide the log details of the service provider. That is what I said in Airtel. If they're sending any messages and all, they will be having a log details with them. They fail to provide that as well. If you claim that you are sending it through the message is received by you, or it has been sent by the bank to the customer, they will be able to, that is not a problem for them to get it from the bank. Sorry, from the service provider. They could have easily got it.
Okay, just to
But in
add,
this, yeah.
Mr. Limai, see, the fraudsters, if it is a planned activity to hack and take a siphon of the money, they'll
Yes.
cut off this SMS channel. Not with respect to this case, I'm telling, there is one more case where there is a cooperative bank where they lost around 1 crore. And the transactions happened, 44 transactions happened. And that was all over India. When you see the IP address, that was on a second Saturday and a Sunday. Only when Monday the manager came, he saw the mails and then he realized when he checked the mobile, there was no SMS. So in this case, what I think and suspect is the SMS would be cut off from the recipient mobile. Technically, I'm 100% not sure this is the way to do that. But
man in the middle attack, maybe.
Yeah. I hope, Lamai, it answers your question.
Say, yes,
Yeah,
Sir,
but
Kodanram sir, coming to your question, the onus of evidence, onus of the proof should be lying with the bank. If we see the section 43A and reasonable security practice, what they have come in, this is pretty much the onus is on the bank. Because as a victim, I'll not have any evidence, as Nami sir said. Everything will be with the bank. Server is with the bank, logs is with the bank, IP address is with the bank. I don't have anything other than I receive OTP or I don't receive OTP. If I receive OTP, then it becomes a legitimate transaction where I share the OTP. There is social engineering. Some people do trick and they take the OTP, that will become a legitimate, and I don't have any claim in that. Now, the onus before the adjudicator, when a complainant as a complainant, I'm going and giving a complaint in police station, and then I go to adjudicator because of their negligence, I failed. My money was lost. Wrongful loss happened to me. Somebody had a wrongful gain. So by bringing in that reasonable security practice itself, along with section 72 and 72A, that is for the privacy and other things and all which will come. So this itself will put the onus on the bank to prove that they had secured they have taken all security measures. In spite of that, money has gone. Right?
Another point what
I
I
have
want to
some
highlight
problems
is,
in this because
sir, one thing, Kodanraman sir.
Huh.
As far as intermediaries are concerned, here what I observed in the judgment is Paytm and Google were let off due to their intermediary defense. But I am on this particular point that they are not in a strict sense intermediaries. What is
Yes.
observed by adjudicating officer, they are assisting these sort of fraudulent activities. So I am making all these parties all the time in other cases also, and they are coming up with same defense. So there should be some solution or collective say churning on this particular point, that they should not be termed as an intermediaries, because why they are providing free services, so they are getting something out of it. Because I am most of the time putting these cases before consumer commission, and I am trying to prove that they offered certain services to me or the client. But here again in this particular case, they were termed as an intermediary, and adjudicating officer also let them off. So
No,
there has to be some. Yeah.
Limai, sorry to interrupt. We
Yeah.
didn't claim against them. We claimed against bank. We made them a party so that they bring the evidence. If you see in the judgment last page, it says the complainant also did not raise any claim against respondent number 4 and respondent number 5 of this complaint. What
So
we
then
said,
I think it's your mistake. You should have at least
No.
made them jointly liable.
I know.
This point needs to be proved somewhere.
Correct. I
No,
agree.
that UPI transaction actually it gets legitimate unless through the bank itself. So basically, at the end point only, bank is the one person who releases this amount and authorizes this transaction and sends the money, right? There is a server that happens through. I think a UPI transaction, maybe we can go through that again.
see, all of you are thinking all
your
of this
question.
fall back up on provisions. In the sense,
Yes, sir.
if this is not there, that moves to him. Why there should be a kind of a argument to make it him that onus will come to that intermediary or so and so. By law itself, when you have the provision to fix, because victim is really a victim, he has to run pillar to post to prove his case, and he has to beg the intermediary to give evidence. If you see that onus is shifted in the law itself, without giving scope for even adjudicator to play with.
Yes. Yes.
Then it is possible.
Sir,
It is
sir,
easier.
to answer
And
you,
it is being done in many laws.
simply,
Not that
sir,
this
to
only should
answer
be
you
done IT law.
simply, nobody can be compelled to give evidence against himself. That is the basic tenet of law.
Yeah.
And based
Sir, that
on
is a basic tenet of law. But
so
if
we
that
cannot
he has
make a
to
law
prove his
against the
genuineness,
provisions.
that's what I'm telling. Such kind of situation where we are not able to get the information, the sections themselves will provide that kind of provision. That should be inbuilt. I can send you 10 or 12 such similar onuses being shifted because it has to protect the victim. Protection of this, what has happened, all these laws have become not victim-centric beneficiaries. These are all commercial-centric beneficiaries. The law has been shifted from the victims, protecting the victim's interest, rather than they are looking at the commercial fellows to grow. This is the problem which I have been seeing in the PDP bill, which has come recently, that digital personal law, where I argue, even earlier IT law, all these are all helpful to the commercial organizations, not to the victims. See, if you look into Indian Penal Code or other codes, their victim is given certain reliefs, even during those times. But in the present day laws, which is happening from last 10 or 15 years, this is onus is left to the victim who is helpless, already is struggled, he is in the street. So here, by law, we should point to see that there is a provision made where this onus is shifted from the victim. It is not the victim to prove, it is for the banks to prove.
Yes, sir. We will hold on 2 minutes. We'll come back. I think Balu sir raised the hand. Balu sir, you have anything to give?
I am telling about the criminal case. There are two remedy. One for getting compensation. One for criminal case. The criminal case, you are possessing my information. In the traditional crime, when you are possessing the money, the criminals straight away come to the bank and showing the revolver or something. They looted the money. At that juncture, at that situation, the bank only giving a complaint, not the victim. My money is here, the information is with you, your server. You have to give a complaint. Adjudication, I am the victim, I can file the court. But criminal case has to be filed by only the bank. The bank is shucking the responsibility. I used to mention now the one banker. No, sir, we won't give a complaint. No, we have, for safeguarding our money, we put our money in your bank. In your custody, the amount was stolen. So you give a complaint, data, everything, evidence, everything you are in. You only saying your money looted. So this should be, as Mr. Godandraman said, there should be a law. If such cases, banks should give a complaint. Then
yes, sir, you are right.
Yes.
Adjudication, I can come. As a victim, adjudication, I can come.
So this was the same thing Madras High Court said. Bank was supposed to give a complaint, but they failed. So, yeah.
But it should not for the courts to say. It is for the legislature to say. That's what I am arguing. If the legislatures are there, court shall follow.
Yes, sir.
You can't expect the court to be all having wisdom all the time. So
Yes,
it may give, it may not give. Why do you give room for it when you have your legislation which is stronger than the clarification by the courts? So you make a legislation. This time we should force the legislation so that it becomes victim-centric. It helps the real victims, not the perpetrators of crime or negligent people who are the fiduciaries there. That's what I feel, sir.
Yeah.
See, RBI cyber fraud guidelines indicate that the banks should file the complaint. And the situation as of now is like what Balu explained. The crime is happening in the premises of the bank, that is the electronic premises of the bank. So they should file the complaint. This is a deduction from the current law itself. There is no need for a separate law, I am saying. From IPC, you
guidelines are not law, sir. Guidelines will not come to the rescue of the victim.
Okay,
victims protection happens only from legislature.
IPC is there, no? The crime has happened in the bank.
Sir, IPC, why should we apply in the IT time? If IPC is there, we don't require cyber law. We can do with the IP law only.
No, you will have use
The situation is different, sir. Sir, one
IPC.
second, sir. Here the situation is totally different. Earlier law and situation, physical situation, it cannot be applied to the virtual situation. Now it's a virtual forum where I don't have any evidence. That fellow is having the evidence, and even now, following the RBI guidelines, the bank, Indus Bank, might have not launched the complaint. What Ranganath has done now, he's keeping quiet. He's not interested. Ranganath should have brought a notice to the RBI saying that he has not filed, why you have not taken action. It should have been taken for vigilance also. So these kind of things can be avoided totally.
See, those are the things. Those are the things people like us will do. In the case of Uma Shankar's case, I have written to RBI to cancel the license of ICICI Bank Tuticorin and the Fort branch. Okay, and I have gone to Reserve Bank of India, Bombay, and argued there. That is something which a netizen activist like me can do in one particular case, not in all cases. So let us not expect Ranganath to be able to do that.
No, I want Ranganath to do
No,
those things.
I
will pursue, and this can be a stepping stone for us to make the law, proper law.
Definitely, we made this point in Uma Shankar case. Also, we
Yes.
talked to the bank has to give a complaint, and in this case also we said bank has not given a complaint.
Yeah,
That
and
was
in the
not
case
recorded,
of Punjab National Bank, I have actually said that, in fact, our Uma Shankar's case, one of the respondents is KV Kamath. You know who is KV Kamath? He is a celebrity. He is the third or fourth respondent there. So because he was the chairperson. So likewise,
He is in Adani's investigation also now.
no, PNB thing also chairperson have implicated. Only thing is, in fact, I can even say, I did go to Mr. Balu in the Uma Shankar's case and said, you file a FIR against ICICI Bank. Okay, it was
Already I filed FIR.
he was not convinced. Okay, but actually after the adjudication came in Uma Shankar's case, the adjudicator did make a mention that there is a indication of gross reckless negligence by ICICI Bank. So at that time, again, I wrote to the DGP of Tamil Nadu saying that the adjudicator has actually indicated that there is a criminal offense committed by ICICI Bank. You should take that up. My idea there was to actually make ICICI Bank make the payment because they to avoid prosecution of their managers. Otherwise, I am not interested in harassing the bank, because even today, after 14 years, we have still not received the money from the ICICI Bank. So I wanted to threaten them with arrest so that they will at least clear this this thing.
So that's what I'm telling, sir. We should not allow this to linger. We
Fine.
should see that
I take your point.
so that we will make it.
No, I take your point, and as I told you, I have been doing that. But I don't expect every other lawyer to take it beyond the case. Case is over. Case is over. They would like to go home. Okay.
Ranganath, give me the inputs. I will take it up very actively, and we will write to CVC also, Central Vigilance Commission, on the negligence of these banks. Crores of rupees looted. Maybe the bank is hand in glove with those criminals. We should try to
let us listen to Adepu. He has got something to say.
Adepu is
former general manager of Canara Bank, so he his banking experience. Yeah, Adepu.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, I'm not general manager of the bank. Right now, I'm with BSI as a credit card security assessor, doing the card assessment. So in this case, I want to get a clarity from Advocate Ranganath on 2 points. One is, in India, RBI has guided, directed all the credit card transactions, online transactions, that is remote transactions, has to be a second factor authentication like OTP, what comes from the system. Here, these particular transactions of credit card happened remotely, but what happened to the second factor authentication from the client, Mr. Srikanth? That not happened. If this was a part of your case, first point. Second point is, bank has reverted 2-3 transactions. On what basis they reverted the transactions? How they can substitute when they know that something happened wrong? This is another transaction. They reversed it. But that same case, subsequently the reversal, why is they continue to allow the transactions? These 2 points, I want a clarity what the case law says, cases saying that.
Yes, sir. For the first point on the second factor, two-factor authentication, the OTP, if it was compromised, did this criminal, whoever did the transaction, was he getting the OTP to his mobile or somewhere else? That we don't know, because that proper investigation of from the forensic side, it didn't happen. So what I assume is they would have got a OTP. Without OTP, the transaction is not happened. But where was that weak link in the network? How did they get the OTP? How did that not reach the complainant mobile? That's a question that can be done, that can be answered only after doing a due forensic investigation from the bank server for that particular transaction. But as of now, nobody's doing that forensics or any other thing to get that piece of evidences. That's where we asked for the log. The log also the bank didn't provide. And then to answer your second question, how they reversed, I agree. First of all, the system shouldn't have allowed. Even I don't know why the reverse was. It was because of over limit. My credit card limit is 10 lakh, but they tried to do a transaction of 10 lakh 20,000. That's where it didn't go through.
That is a failed transaction, Mr. Ranganath. There's a failed transaction.
Yes.
But there is a lower limit transaction, they reversed it.
Correct.
So failed transaction, reversal transaction, different transactions.
That may be some foreign exchange related issues. We don't know.
No, sir, not one exchange.
No,
The
no.
amount is less than 10
He said,
lakhs.
no, he said it is all $5,000 or something like that. No.
The total.
I changed USD.
No, sir, $5,000 is less than 10 lakhs.
No. The first
No,
transaction was.
That is what that also has been rejected. We don't know the reason. It
Absolutely.
may be related to foreign exchange and other things. We don't know. Maybe Ranganath, if we had asked the bank.
I think we asked Indus for what reason you have reversed. They were not able to tell for what reason they have reversed these transactions.
Yeah.
So that's where they failed.
This failure of SMS may also indicate that there was an insider help.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That could have made the bank little more vulnerable, because they will lose all kinds of defense if you say that this is possible. In fact, in one of the Hyderabad cases against ICICI Bank, where 25 lakhs have been awarded to the customer, it was proved that some insider actually made some changes in mobile number or something, so that the message did not reach him. So it is indicative of that. You don't have to prove. You could have actually argued like that and beaten the defense of IndusInd Bank, perhaps.
No, in fact, we brought that point because one more catch here was the card came on the same month. The renewal card that came in October, which was supposed to come in November. Of course, bank will send sometime early. When the card came, the transactions happened.
All these frauds happened in the new card or in the old card?
New card.
Okay.
Sir, here what happened now, sir? Here, the new card sent by courier, the courier fellow might have opened the card and saw the number. And he's taken the phone number of the customer. He's taken the phone number of the customer by taking the acknowledgement on the courier receipt. These 2 phone numbers and the card number is result of this fraud.
Possible. That is also possible. And another thing is, he says the payments were made in Kabul. So there must be a terrorist angle also. We do not know.
Absolutely.
Terrorist angle, okay, sir.
There is a network. There is a network to which this credit card information would have been sold by the courier. Let's say a simple courier boy would have sold the information to some XYZ, and ultimately it has reached the network which has gone to Kabul. And obviously, the first impression or this thing is that it should be considered as a national security issue.
Yeah, could be.
It's a bigger angle, sir. But now banks given an option to bar the non-Indian rupee transactions in the credit cards.
Yeah, now we have that option, sir. I can select to use other currencies or not. See, one simple thing, what I feel is now if I log into Gmail from any other system, it will ask for authentication. It will give a number and it will ask to select the number from my mobile or anything. Why the banks are not following this simple thing? I can do net banking from any system. They can give an option for me. I want to lock my MAC ID. Other than this MAC ID, don't allow any transaction from any other system. And second thing is, if I'm logging from any other system, have one more authentication. When Gmail can provide, why not banking systems? These two will reduce 90% of the crimes, I'll tell you, because 90% of the cyber crimes happening in some other system. This is the one thing which I wanted to take with RBI and wherever the concerned department. So let me just wait. Subaraidu, I think he has raised a hand, and Kamal had raised a hand. Sir, please, sir.
Yes, sir. See, around this, on whom is the onus of evidence? On that, I was hearing a lot of discussion. See, many times what happens is consumers can claim that they have not received the SMS. Okay. But at times, banks, if from their servers, can provide evidence that, okay, from our side, whatever is required to push the message to the receiver has happened, right? Would the onus of how does an individual consumer prove that he did not receive the SMS? How would the court believe that this fellow is saying the truth, and would some part of the onus of evidence not fall on the individual, and how does he do that?
Yeah, you have a valid point, sir. We had a case against SBI where SBI provided the logs to show that they had sent the SMS. Now, when we analyze the logs, that logs are from the server of the bank, not the intermediary logs.
Okay.
Now, the the message, once it goes from the bank server, it goes to intermediary, and then it goes to end user. Now, there are 3 points. Now, it has gone from the bank, but it has not come to me. So what we asked was, you are giving your server logs. You get me intermediary logs showing that I have received, or take my phone and send it to forensic lab on that particular day if I have got these SMSs or not. Right.
What if they, by some coincidence, that fellow had to change his phone in the meanwhile? Will he have to preserve his phone for forensic purposes?
In these cases, it may be required, because as of now, nobody asked, okay, I'll take the phone and send it to forensics. Tomorrow, somebody may ask. In that case, yes, that piece of evidence would be required, what I assume.
Okay.
Yeah, Kamal sir, you were raising your hand.
So, but again, tell me one thing. If the bank were to argue that because I am different and my intermediary is different, he could be my agent, right? I have done my job. If the intermediary does not, he could have easily shifted the liability to the intermediary also, no?
No, it doesn't matter. See, a bank may have different intermediaries. Suppose I'm using Airtel.
No, for the SMS. See, for example, if the in this case where he said that the bank server proved that the SMS has gone from the bank server, but the intermediary did not, right? What would happen in that case? Can the bank evade liability? What is the legal?
As far as the consumer is concerned, he should get his money. Now, between the bank and the intermediary, they can share the liability. That is left to them. Okay. We will be receiving money only from one entity. Okay. And we cannot claim from all the people. Okay. Then this is a contractual, kind of a dispute between the bank and the intermediaries, and they can fight and collect the money from there.
Yeah. Kamal sir, you had something.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much for giving. I will make it a quick, rapid one. I have that's very interesting. Because I live in UK, and whenever I'm traveling to India, I do use a Indian bank. I think Mr. Navi's favorite, ICICI. But I have asked them to do a chargeback now since pre-COVID, because the government of India announced that all visas, business visas, etc., were revoked until further notice due to COVID. Now, the next day, I was on the same day, I was supposed to fly from here. So obviously, I got my money back from the international airline, but the internal one, I don't know if I'm allowed to, it doesn't matter, Indigo Airlines, I called them and said, look, the government has announced there is no international flights allowed here. And so I'm just letting you know that because I can't land there, I can't fly the next day. And the guy said, no, you can't do that. I think it was about after 1 hour, 45 minutes of holding on to a line. That's how I got connected. And that's the simple answer I was got. I've been arguing with them for the past, it's the matter of principle rather than the amount which is there. So I wrote to their headquarters arguing about the case and everything else. When I contacted ICICI Bank to make a chargeback, and they had no idea what a chargeback is. And I was so gutted, that the bank cannot recall that money because I haven't used the services provided, because the government had announced that nobody can come into in or out of the country. So I'm still stuck, the reason I'm mentioning this is like, it becomes a matter of principle rather than claiming back 3,000 or 4,000 rupees. It has cost me more in my phone calls, I can assure you. And so for people like me, you won't be bothering, like, isn't it? I mean, I'll just say, oh, just let it go. But I haven't left it. I think Mr. Navi has inspired me by chasing this kind of people, especially Indigo Airlines. I'm still chasing them to refund my money. Then they complained that they can't refund the money because it was from NRI account or something like that. And I said, no, it's an account I paid the money from, so you should return it there. The bank said, yeah, you have got your account, and they haven't sent the money. So to date, I don't know, I'm talking about 2.5, 3 years now. It's just there's no money. It's just so now I was just using the phone instead of phone calls. I'm just using the emails. But this is just a prime example of things that can happen if all of a sudden there is a disaster somewhere in anywhere in the world. One could get stuck if you are not protected enough. Thank God that I mean, luckily I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't buy the ticket.
Kamal, you should actually contact the Ministry of Aviation. Maybe you may be able to get a better response from them.
Yeah, I did. At one stage, Indigo Airlines did put out a statement to say all those people who had their tickets until 30th of March, I can't remember the exact date, that statement was they will be refunded. That statement was so quickly taken down within like few days, and I couldn't find it again. Anyway, this is just a hearsay. I'm just giving a prime example. But thankfully,
you please write to the Civil Aviation Minister. You may get an opportunity to get this back rather than pursuing this legal route.
Yeah, they thankfully, but it's given me a lesson that one should buy tickets via the credit card system. At least in UK, we are covered by the Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act. You see, I don't know if there is such act in India. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
What happened to criminal case, sir?
Sir, that's still under investigation, as you know. Right.
Don't ask Balu what happened to the Uma Shankar criminal case.
I have charge sheeted against this.
When this one appellate tribunal thing was going on in Delhi, the inspector of the then cybercrime police this thing had come and said that there was something going on in Saidapet, this thing, and this person had been arrested afterwards. That's 2-3 years later. He got a bail by paying a deposit of around 5 lakhs. So I have told ICICI Bank, please take that money if you want. Okay, I don't know what happened. Now it is too late. Okay, yeah, I think we have had a very fruitful discussion, Samyogita.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was an amazing discussion and insightful. Thank you, Mr. Ranganathan and Chinmaya, for joining us today. And it was a great learning for all of us. And definitely we'll be trying to, safeguard ourselves from these kind of crimes that are happening. And even we know whom to reach out to if we land up into this.
That is most important.
Exactly. So we have now Advocate Ranganathan to land up, because in my fraternity, we have people who land up to these cases. So definitely we know whom to reach out to. Thank you very much for joining us today and for this insightful discussion. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you so much, and thank you
Have a
for
good
being
evening.
us here to share the case study. Thank you, FDBPA, and thank you, Navi sir, and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so